Hi everyone, it's Jeff Hopper with Links Players, and I'm here with Jeffrey Cranford, our president at Links Players. And we are addressing some things that we think are important for Links Fellowship leaders and participants to know. One of those things, Jeff, is that Links Fellowships seem to have a life cycle. There are seasons that occur in Links Fellowships from the time they begin going forward, and some fellowships we know of have been in existence for 10, 15, 20 years. Others are very new, and it's helpful for those older ones to teach the younger ones in terms of what have we learned from these groups that have been in existence for a long time that would be helpful for other groups, so that when they go through something that is unexpected or difficult, that they would recognize, this is something that's normal.
Right. I don't know that I fully recognize the seasonality of a group until even just a few years ago, and it was just not something that I was ever really cognizant of. Maybe I was unconsciously, but recently I was looking around, and one of my good friends, and we'd started this group. He started it close to after the time that I did, and he said, "You know what? We're really not having that many new believers come." And it was frustrating for him because he's kind of an evangelist at heart. And I began to think, well, should we disband? I mean, it really has been. I mean, as you look around the group, these are very mature believers, and a lot of them have grown just through the fellowship, and some of them even come to know Jesus through the fellowship. But really, we're talking 10, 15, 20 years of a group kind of meeting together. Mm-hmm. And I really felt like in my heart I began to get some insight into that not being a bad thing, just a different thing. There's nothing more exciting than having a new group and seeing buddies that don't know the Lord come, open the Bible for the first time. Sure. I've got one of those groups now where you end up, being able to purchase Bibles for guys that maybe didn't have a Bible. Maybe they were following the Lord, but they never really been into the Word. And kind of a new season of a group is very exciting. But equally as exciting is a group that's very mature and very much involved in the missional aspects, either kindling compassion for the poor and needy, the sharing part of our Links acrostic, and they're finding themselves really being synergistic with other guys in the group, motivated by other guys in the group, and the group itself can be have a tremendous impact not only on the club itself, but on the community and sometimes even beyond the community. But those late stages, and so you've got to recognize, I'm very cautious in the seasonality of a group about topics that we discuss, about the depth that we go into, and always being aware that you want to try to give something to that new guy who's coming. But if you've got a group that's been mature and been together for a long time and missional, now if you've got a group that's been just together for a long time and you look around and you go, wow, mission is really not even part of our vocabulary. We've just kind of become easy. It's like an old easy chair, and we're just kind of, or an old pair of slippers, and we're just comfortable being together. That could be problematic. But and if you find yourself in a season in that group, then a lot of the emphasis should be on the missional part as well. So yeah, you have new groups excitement. You have kind of stodginess, staleness that can happen on any group. If you just keep meeting, you feel comfortable with one another. You're not inviting people in. You could have a group that's very missionally minded, but they're meeting together, and it's almost like a war room of sorts, where you're getting together, sharing ideas, going deep into the scriptures. Or you find yourself, you know what, it's time that we really get some fresh things, and you become missional and just in terms of sharing and inviting other guys in. So all those groups are different and find in different seasons, but it's significant to recognize the season that you're in.
One of the books, we have an Amazon store where people can go, and what we've put on there are resources that we think are very valuable to Links Fellowship leaders or Links players in general. And one of those books we recently added is called A Different Kind of Tribe by a gentleman named Rick Howerton, and he talks about small groups having basically 4 components or 4 aspects to them. Theological, they study the Word together. Familial, they support one another. Restorational, they assist one another when there's great trouble in their lives. And missional. And certainly we would see that some groups are in different seasons.
Any one of those 4 categories.
Yep, right. Those quadrants, so to speak. Sometimes they're more, maybe in 2012 they're really missional. But in 2013, because of things that are going on in some of the people's lives, they're very restorational.
Right.
And those things all have significant import to the group.
Very much.
Yeah.
And again, that takes insight from a leader. You know, I think what's very important as a leader is cognizant of where they are, who's there, in any one given particular fellowship. If there's a visitor, I always want to know. I would really encourage you, by the way, this is just a little bit of an aside. If you've got one guy, we have one guy particular, is a precious guy that's been with me for years. Craig Williamson was a golf professional for many years, very well respected and well known around the country, and kind of among golf professionals, really a well-known name. And Craig's now a little bit later in his life, but I tell you what, he is so faithful. I get there a little bit late, I'm running, I'm thinking, he's got a little list written. Here's the guys, here's the new guys that are there that day. Here's who their guests are, we want to introduce them. And just any bits of information that will help me ascertain where we are in that particular day and the direction of that group in that particular day. And so having a team like that is able to have insight into that group on a particular day too. So you have kind of larger seasons, but you also have specific days where you maybe have a guest or somebody with you, and you certainly want to direct things maybe towards that person. Recognizing if you've got a mature group, you know, Jesus talks a lot about that one lost sheep, that one lost coin, that group meeting that day may be specifically for that one guest. So another thing to think about as well.
Seasonally, and this is a hard one to talk about, but there is a time to die. Some groups come to an end. How do you know when it's right maybe to say it's time for this group to be done?
You know, I think, of course, I like to go out on a good note, and I think a group's really possibly not done unless it's dying because there's just not vision there, okay? So there's a lack of leadership, so that's a possibility. Or that you come to a place that, you know what, it's time for us to go in some ways our separate ways. Not going from something to nothing, but with a strong sense that everybody's kind of ready to take that next step and maybe start a new group of their own, you know. And those are difficult times. We've had various times where we've had groups that we've just wanted to split up, and it's like splitting up family in many ways. So it's not an experience that I'm personally very adept at. We've tried it, not worked very well, but I think sometime, like anything, you maybe lose leadership or you lose something that's going on, and maybe it is a time to, you know, like Ecclesiastes says, there's a time to be born, there's a time to come into the world, and there's a time to leave, and sometimes that's God ordained as well. But that it's been a rarity for us. There's been some kind of move from one thing to the next, or from one club to the next, or from one venue to the next, and there's a lot of sustainability as well.
Right, right. Well, we hope this is helpful to you, and thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.